sun is shining. The T-Rex all ready to go. See, he slipped there. That's the problem with these stairs. You coming? Let's go. T-Rex using the stairs. See, he got injured last summer on his knee, but it's all better, and he's doing great, and he gets so enthusiastic. He wasn't even going down those stairs for a while because they're kind of slippery, but he's back. We're back. 53 degrees at 9:30 on October 8th to Tuesday. What's that noise? That's a brand new Gettysburg Flag Company flag, and it's built for the weather, and you can really hear it this morning. I heard it in the room. I'm like, what is that noise? Oh, it's a new flag noise, because there is some wind this morning. And look at that. Wow, we've got some convection out over the ocean, cumulus clouds, and we've got planes landing toward the west. The air is coming from the west, which is best, except for it's somewhat unstable air. And we're going to have a lot of instability clouds and maybe a raindrop or two. Now there are the flags. That's nice, beautiful. Bruins, Lynx, and Old Glory. I think it's called an ensign when it's on a tall ship. That's an ensign. I'm right? And the boats are pointed into the wind. The color of the water is a reflection of the color of the sky. It's blue for now, but there are showers around. Matter of fact, there were some thunderstorms over Lake Ontario and Lake Erie this morning. Some instability. Front came through yesterday. How much rain did you get at your house? We picked up less than 1/4 of an inch down there at that rain gauge. And if you look around at the Coco Raz, the most rain I saw, 1.52 inches in East Lyme, Connecticut. So 48 hours ago, we saw the HRRR printing out 1.5 inches of water. We said, well, it shows it over Brockton, but it could be 50, 100 miles in either direction. So it was kind of right. Yesterday was kind of one of those rainfall lotteries. Not everybody got the rain. Well, everybody got at least a little bit of rain. And like I said, it was the wettest front to come through here since August. And it's now stalled in eastern Maine with a 1,006 millibar occluded low. Occluded means that the warm front has wrapped north and the cold front has wrapped south, and it's done its job of mixing up the atmosphere. And at the occlusion, there's a triple point, a new warm front and a new cold front. So it's called the triple point low, and it's going to kind of meander to the north. A week ago, the guidance had that as a 995 low over Long Island, and 7 days later, it verifies as a 1,006 millibar low in eastern Maine, and it makes a huge difference in your weather. Wind is air moving from high to low pressure, and if the low is to your north, the air, well, it wraps because the earth is spinning, and the air comes around from the west and from the south, actually, still over Nova Scotia. So counterclockwise circulation around low pressure, clockwise circulation around high pressure, and that Greenland high we've been talking about so much, which is having such an influence all the way down to Milton, really, is now 1050. There's a 1050 millibar high, and that's 31 inches on your barometer at home. And then the central pressure of Milton is 925 millibars, which is around 27.7. And if you want to get the lowdown on how strong Milton became, you want to follow people like Philip Klotzbach. He has the stats. He's sort of the hurricane man of the nation at Colorado State University. Hectopascals. Oh, come on. Another unit. That's the same as millibars. Go down to 897 millibars, and it would make it about the 4th strongest in terms of low central pressure hurricane on record since central pressure began being monitored in 1979. What are the other ones? Wilma, Gilbert, and Rita had lower barometric pressure. And at one point yesterday, Milton did get to 180 mile per hour storm. No, there is no such thing as a Category 6. We talked about that on the podcast we did with Blue Hill Observatory and the director of the National Hurricane Center. He said, no, that'll just make things too confusing because Category 5 is already bad enough. We don't want people to think, oh, Category 5 is not the worst kind of hurricane. Okay, we've got a spider in there. Good morning. There it is. October things to look at. Things to look at in the sky last night. Again, the coronal mass ejection from the sun lit up the sky last night. So many great images. Scott and Joey right there among a couple of them. And I have yet to see aurora since moving to this area just south of Boston. I know that in some cases you could see it even with the city lights, but we can't see them here. And I have seen them on Cape Cod a long time ago. So what's going to happen? Well, everyone else is covering Milton. Jim Cantori is down there. I guess gas is getting hard to find now in Florida, and they're still trying to clean up after Helene. So just a disaster. Milton did go through an eye wall replacement. Interesting take by Phil, content weather guy, saying that it kind of bounced off the coast of Mexico. And that has legit figuring if you realize that the fuel for hurricanes is that 88-degree water and very little wind aloft. That's how it spun up so fast yesterday. And it wants to stay over its fuel source. It's only a 50-mile wide in diameter hurricane. And so literally it just kind of bounced and stayed over its fuel source about 100 miles north of the coast of Mexico. And even though Milton's so close to the coast of Mexico, the wind on the coast there was only 15 to 25 miles an hour this morning when we looked. So it's a very compact storm. But now, believe it or not, that high in Greenland is actually playing a role in fueling the north side of Milton, just kind of giving it a little bit more oxygen, so to speak. Like a fire needs a little bit of oxygen to keep going. Sometimes it's a strong infusion of oxygen, and that's what the venting of that high to the north causing just a slight sort of spin on the top of Milton, on the north side of Milton, and also a couple of fronts. Now, it's going to undergo a metamorphosis over the next 48 hours. It's going to become a post-tropical storm eventually when it gets by Florida, but as it goes from a tropical to a non-tropical cyclone, it's going to expand. Its wind field is going to expand. Sort of think of it like a figure skater spinning so fast when its arms are tight, and then it tends to slow down and expand as the arms come out wider. It's a very powerful hurricane, and its impact is going to be more than just 50 miles on either side like it is right now. It's going to be more like 100 miles on either side, with Tampa right sort of in the zone and still not even cleaned up from Helene less than 2 weeks ago. Meantime, here in New England, the sky is changing right before our eyes. We're going to have these mid-level clouds, more of these cumulus clouds, cold air over relatively warm water. That's the reason for the thunderstorms near west of Buffalo this morning in Watertown. And so we have a similar thing going on right here with the clouds bubbling up because the water temperature is in the low 60s and your freezing level is at about 6,000 feet. So that's quite a temperature gradient. Top of Mount Washington did check in with 0.3 inches of rain. About 0.4 of an inch of rain and 0.3 inches of snow. And that's the second time it snowed on Mount Washington. The first time was September 8th. There was a 10th. So now we're up to 0.4 inches of snow for the new snow season at Mount Washington. And the sun was out in Mount Washington this morning for a time. And there's this upper level low. It's going to spin right over us. Let's go to the hectoPascal to time out any precipitation we may have. And there are a couple of scattered showers around in eastern Maine. Those are lifting north. That's with the front from yesterday. And then the upper low is actually going to strengthen a bit and wobble over us. And so those showers and thunderstorms could redevelop, and looks like even over southern New England, headed for Cape Cod tomorrow morning about sunrise. That's a pretty good downpour there. And then the 540 blue line and the 534 blue lines, those are the contours at the 500 millibar level, and they're getting lower, and that means the atmosphere is getting colder. It's a counterclockwise circulation, and more showers of rain and elevation snow are likely scattered around tomorrow and tomorrow evening, and that upper level low is going to lift out after that, and it's going to be a complicated forecast for what's going to happen. A strong high off to our west, low pressure to our north, so that usually means when the high goes to your south, you're going to warm up fairly quickly, because instead of when the high is to your north, you get an east wind, but when the high is to your south, you get a west wind, and the west wind is generally warmer for places like Boston and lower elevations. So We'll go to the Euro now and put it into motion, and there's our upper level low on the top, and there's Milton on the bottom. And then if we stop it at 2 a.m. on Thursday, so that's tomorrow night, Milton forecast to be a major hurricane right on the coast, very close to Tampa. And we have our upper level low and a weak surface low here north of New England. And then you have an expansive high pressure system. So that high is going to be instrumental in the expanding wind field on the north side of Milton. And that high, because it's going to our south, means we're going to get into a fairly gusty west and southwest wind as we put this back into motion on Thursday. And Friday, Milton goes east into the Bahamas as a post-tropical cyclone, and it's weakening. And we have a front that's coming in from southeastern Canada. We've been trying to monitor the progress of this front, so let's stop it now on Saturday. And I think this is 2 a.m. Saturday. The front is across, looks like Jay Peak, Vermont. Still, well, it'll have warmed back up, so that won't be snow. That'll be rain with the front there near Jay Peak, and a strong high in central Canada and a strong high to our south, so it's going to be quite gusty. And that front looks like it wants to settle south and weaken as far as the rainfall goes into the weekend. And so we press that south now, and we have a high pressure building to our north, and here comes a wave of low pressure on the front that's stalled from the Great Lakes to near Cape Cod, and it gets windy and somewhat warmer here Saturday into Sunday. But then Sunday night, I'm going to stop it again here on Monday. I think this is a 2 a.m. Monday. And now we have, again, a strong storm on the front, where 3 days ago it was in a very similar position, looked about the same. 2 days ago it was pretty much gone, that low pressure system, just the front here. And then yesterday that low was south of New England, which would have been more like a nor'easter. But this seems more reasonable. Have this storm cut. You call it a cutter when they go to your north, and in the wintertime you hate cutters because they make rain instead of snow. But this one's still a work in progress, and it looks like a front with some fairly significant rain and wind in parts of central and northern New England. And then put it back in motion, the front comes through Columbus Day Monday, cold air advection, and rain could end as snow in some of our mountains. Our friend Weir Lundstedt trying to show some graphics showing 5 to 10 inches of snow in the mountains. Weir, I am not going to show those graphics until it gets within about 4 days. And I think those were way overdone, that some of those posts that came out on social yesterday regarding snow next week. But it's cold enough, and the mountains are getting some frosting. And, oh yeah, the surf. I'm talking about ski weather, but don't forget we're surf weather here. And a week ago I talked about the storms all lined up across the Atlantic for today, with an east wind from Norway all the way to New England. Well, it's not an east wind in New England because that low moved to eastern Maine, but from Norway to about Newfoundland, the wind is from the east-northeast, and those green shades here on the Null School graphic, those green shades are 40-mile-per-hour winds all the way from Norway to just east of New England, and that is generating the surf we talked about. Incidentally, those storms lined up out there are the remnant of Isaac and Kirk and Helene, regenerated as a powerful 980 5 low or so. So the storms are all kind of chain linked across the North Atlantic, south of that Greenland high pressure system. And this is what the surf looked like this morning at Hampton Beach. It looks even better if you go to the Cinnamon Rainbows and go to the live stream with the tops of the waves blowing off. It's 7 foot 12 second swell. That is experts only surfing today here on the east coast of New England. And I think there's still going to be a swell with us tomorrow, and the wind should still be offshore, and the sun should be out in southern New England for the most part, other than these passing clouds. Here we are at 14 minutes. I appreciate the viewers' comments. Kate, New England, talking about the storm in the Gulf of Mexico. And yeah, it was definitely a nasty outlier, but it's not unprecedented to have such strength and such storms. Although I think that the speed at which the central pressure fell yesterday, what Mike Seidel say, it fell something like 78 millibars in 24 hours. That's bombogenesis times 3. And well, so that was more like a large tornado spinning up real fast, but a hurricane, again, fueled by 88-degree water. And Look at those waves. Look at those sky waves. Those are almost cirrocumulus. And cirrocumulus often indicate very large storm systems within 1,000 miles. And it's all connected from that Greenland high at 1050 to Milton this morning at 925 millibars. Wow, that's a 50 plus 75, 125 millibar gradient. So you're going to have all kinds of action in the atmosphere. And October is notorious for strong storms. Now I got to go to the dental hygienist this morning, and I'd like to get this published before afternoon, so I'm going to probably just skip all the time lapse I made yesterday and leave you with just a general time lapse. Maybe I'll try and sneak in a couple of snippets and time lapse of the day and our piano music, as October being October. So pretty. Appreciate all your viewership, and Lynx is still here for another day or two. All right, talk to you tomorrow. 57 degrees, 10:45, Monday, and it's pouring outside. It just started pouring. We've been between downpours for some time. We shot Out the Door Weather and More just a few minutes ago. I'm editing. And so let's check on Steve, see how he's doing. He doesn't seem too fazed by the rain. He's also got a nice little place to hide right there. Steve, you want to come inside for a few minutes? No. So I talk a lot about how the density of fresh water is a little different than the density of salt water. Density of fresh water is 1 gram per cubic centimeter, and the density of salt water is more like 1.03 grams. So the less dense fresh water, rainfall, floats on top of the salt water, and that's what we see right here. Good morning, Yggdrasil. Sailboat. All right. Come on, Steve. Let's go inside. Seriously. 5:15. First glimpse of the sun for today, Monday, October 7. Only 3 more showers left. One near Milford, New Hampshire, another near Worcester, another near Groton, Connecticut, moving off to the east-southeast. So the first legit cold front with rain in southern New England in a couple of months, believe it or not. Just 0.22 here at Surf Ski Weather in North Weymouth. Let's let this ride for a little while now. 5:30. Wow, that was beautiful. The sun just came out, and the color of everything just turned golden. The golden hour. Now the sun's going back behind the cloud again. We're backlit, Steve. I don't know if they can see us that well. Crickets, that's what we hear. May have been the wettest front we've had in a while, but where's the wind? It's up in the sky. Seems like the only wind we get lately is from the northeast, doesn't it? About 3 days until the real wind from the west-northwest, as we have cyclogenesis going on this front. Going down a few millibars, as opposed to 75 millibars, like Milton did in the Gulf today. It had totally cleared for a few minutes, well, at least overhead. Now it's mostly cloudy again, and a dark cloud behind Boston. So why don't we run a little more time lapse? Okay, urgent request to look west. Can I do this? Sit down the camera and zoom it in before we lose the sun. Okay, there it is. Awesome. Good night, everybody. Okay, that was fun. One more urgent. This pooch down on the water here. He keeps running into the water and then running out of the water and then rolling on the sand in the sand. What a fun game. I'm not trying to spy on you. I want your puppy going in and out of the water and rolling around the sand. And it's totally cloudy again. Our new flag from today barely moving. And our 4-year-old Maine Coon cat, Steve, turning his head in every direction except for into the camera. Steve, say goodnight. Good night, everybody. Talk to you tomorrow. Here's a time lapse of the whole day.